Angus Young, how you doing?
Good, Becko.
The Offspring.
How's it going, Becko?
Dave Grohl, how you going, mate?
Good, man.
Pete, it's been a long time coming.
Oh, Becko, hasn't it indeed?
We go inside the dressing room, speak to the biggest names in music,
Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones.
and crack open their esky.
This is exactly how I imagine you, by the way, sitting opposite me with a vodka and orange.
You're a discerning chap. This is The Rider.
Hey, this is the Becko. Welcome back to The Rider. We are celebrating Under the Southern Stars coming to Australia after 2 false starts because of COVID. It is finally happening, and what a lineup. Bush are coming. Stone Temple Pilots. Pretty pumped about this. Cheap Trick, the legends of punk, coming to Australia, and also Rose Tattoo. What a lineup. Touring across Australia from March 11 through to 27. And we are celebrating on the Rider podcast. We've had Gavin Rossdale from Bush. If you missed that chat, you can subscribe now and catch up on all platforms. On Monday, it's Eric Kretz from Stone Temple Pilots and also the legendary Robin Zander from Cheap Trick the following week. But right now on the phone, he's ready to jump on that plane. I have to use the word legendary again because it's the only way to describe him. Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. How are you doing?
Well, I'm legendary. Let's put it that way.
Well, mate, congratulations. Number one, somehow you survived COVID. What have you been doing during lockdown? Have you done some recording? Have you got some more new material to come a bit later on after this new album?
Yeah, I do, or we do, or whatever. And it's like, I haven't been, I tell people it's like, it's not really inspiring. this
No,
year.
it's not.
But
no.
it's also, but it's been interesting, and I actually got to meet my family again, which now they're gone out here, so it's like I've seen them now. Let's get back to work.
Got to keep the fingers. Every guitarist. Otherwise, you get arthritis. You got to keep the fingers going, rather than just do nothing. So I'm sure it gets quite boring being a guitarist. And in fact, how many guitars do you own?
I have a 500 now. Actually 502. I just bought 2 guitars the last 2 days.
And how many 5-neck guitars do you have? Because you got that famous one we all know about. But how many?
Well, I have 3. The original orange one, then the checkerboard one, and then the third one is a Carina, made out of Carina wood. And instead of having a mere 36 strings, like the other ones do, it has 38 because it has a mandocello instead of a guitar neck.
Is there a limit on how many necks you can have, though, before it gets a bit tedious? What is your ideal?
1.
Yeah.
But it was my idea, so I have to live with it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been fun. I did it for fun, but I had to make sure that every neck worked, and they do. I just had to get my arms longer.
Yeah, there's actually some folklore. I don't know how true it is, but to this day, you are the noisiest band to ever play in Sydney, because I heard that in 81 when you played the Horden, they had to change the noise regulations because you literally hold the noise level record.
All right, cool. The Horden Pavilion, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that was anything we set out to do. We're just want to make sure everybody could hear us.
Actually, now on that, how is the hearing? Because, playing in old age, things change. Do you have to actually crank it up to be able to sort of do it like that? Because I actually remember I was in the photo pit on your last tour, and I remember how loud your guitar amp was. It was louder than anything I've ever heard before.
What'd you say? I heard you.
Oh, sorry.
What? Jesus. Don't they have humor in Australia?
You got me. You bloody got me.
So, good. Well, you better leave that one in then.
I don't believe it.
I'm trying to think. It's like there was years ago, Nirvana, Kurt Cobain used to say, we're like Cheap Trick, except our guitars are louder. And I said, wait a minute. Our guitars are plenty loud. But, I really don't try to be so loud. I think that's probably what comes off the PA, because I'm using the same amps that I have since 1977. I had 6 amps, Fender Deluxes made for me by Paul Rivera. We put a bigger speaker and a heavier duty magnet in there, or transformer. and it's like that's what I basically use. And then I have another ISO amp behind the stage that I mix it with it. So let's blame somebody else.
Yeah, blame
okay,
someone
we
else.
were loud.
How have things changed though? Being an elder statesman of rock and roll, like you guys were the I guess the granddaddies of the punk rock scene. You got so many bands that look up to you over the years, and how do you stop touring being a chore?
Well, I think all of us like what we do, and the traveling part wears you out, but the playing is like that's the highlight of everybody's day.
Yeah.
And it's like because I treat every audience equally awful. I mean, it's like I'm just like you go out there and it's like the people that are there tonight weren't there last night, so you better be good tonight. That's the way it's always kind of been.
Yeah.
It's like, and we're not like studio musicians or play the tapes or whatever. So it's all live, and so like our mistakes are real.
I sort of want to ask about Live at Budokan as well, because that is your highest-selling album, but also it's such an iconic album as well. And I don't think there are many live albums that become so big as that one did. How did that happen?
Well, kind of a long story, but it's like the first hits we ever had were in Japan.
Yeah.
We had Clock Strikes 10 was number one, and the studio version of I Want You to Want Me did really well. And so when we went to Japan the first time, 1978, all the shows were sold out. The record company was going from Sony Records to Epic Sony, so that we were the first record on that label.
Yeah.
And they were making a record for the fans, or the new Japanese fans we had. And it's like, so we recorded it, and the guy that was our PR or our A&R guy, his name was Norio Nanaka, and so that was his first record. And the other guy that was with us was Joe Morita. Joe Morita was Issei Morita's kid, and he was the president of Sony. It started Sony,
Right.
but we didn't really know that, so we treated him equally awful. But the last time we were there, Norio Nanaka was now the president, and that was his idea to have us do the record for the fans, not knowing that it was going to be released in the States and Australia and whatever. It was done that way. They liked our band so much that we were getting a lot of fan mail from opening for other bands that were big in Japan, and that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there aren't many live albums that become bigger than the studio recordings, and the Live at Budokan's one of them. I guess Talking Heads Stop Making Sense is another one as well, but there aren't many that have that level of success.
Yeah, well, we did shows with the Who in Nuremberg with AC/DC actually, and I got a picture of here's Pete Townsend. He came up to me and said, "Rick, how'd you get that sound on the Live at Budokan record?" I said, "You did Live at Leeds. What are you asking me for?" It's like,
Yeah. Actually, on AC/DC, before you move on, you guys have got a secret song with AC/DC sitting on a shelf somewhere, I heard.
yeah, we do. That was one of the things I was going to write down. I'm going to send it to Chris, our guy from the record company.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We used to do flip-flop shows with us. They'd open one night and we'd open the next night, and it was so great because it was like one of the few bands I've ever sat and watched their whole set every night. But they were so good, it was so. Even if I'd heard the same stuff, watching Phil Rudd play the drums, Malcolm was like the ultimate rhythm player, and just their songs were so fun. And plus, I knew him with Bon Scott.
Yeah.
And I took Bon Scott to have his first taco we ever had, the first Mexican place. Yeah, he had a taco and some scotch. I don't think he ate the taco, but then those guys came over to my house too. Yeah, they came to my house, and I had just bought another house that I was going to renovate, and so they came to my little house, and I drove them over to the place that I just bought. And then the last tour that they were on with Malcolm, it was the last show. I flew down to Nashville, and they had nobody in the backstage area with all the stars in Nashville that wanted to see him, because most of the country stars used to be rock and roll guys
That's right.
that gave up and went to country. But it was like we were the only ones there. And so I walk in the dressing room, and Angus and Malcolm, hey, Rick, you still living in Rockford? Yeah, okay. See, they remember going to my house back in '79.
Wow. Were you expecting this the same success for AC/DC when they, lost Bon and got Brian? Was that a surprise for you?
Yeah, because, nobody could replace Bon, I thought, because it's like, because he was so unique. Like, it was replacing Freddie Mercury or something.
Yeah.
But Bon was like, to me, he was like the ultimate pirate. He was like all tattooed, and he had the swagger, and he was the real deal. He reminded me of Alex Harvey, who I was a fan of, and he just had that kind of rock and roll sense to him. It's like, it was so cool, and he was the sweetest guy, but he looked like he'd knock your head in if you said the wrong thing to him.
Oh, that's what everyone
Maybe
says.
he would.
He had the charm that would charm the ladies, would charm anyone, to be honest. But he also looked like a guy who would headbutt you for a beer or a scotch.
Yeah, the fact that we toured with him, and the fact that I'll send you that it's audio only of us playing the Johnny B. Good, and it's like it's funny, because we don't really go jam, or they don't do that kind of stuff. I'm one of two people that have ever played with live on stage with Kiss. It's like Joe Perry did and I did. It's like, because guys in Kiss liked me and they liked Joe Perry. But it's like playing with AC/DC. That doesn't happen. You don't have guest stars come up there. And I wasn't a fan of Axl, so it's like I was not looking forward to that. But actually, he was actually better than some of the other guys that were in the band at that time.
Oh, yeah, Axl had a vocal range.
Still Redwood. Yeah, well, it was better than I thought. And I was just worried that they were going to try to get Robin to steal him from us.
But you're right talking about Phil Rudd. Phil Rudd is still one of the greatest drummers in the world.
Oh yeah, he's not doing anything fancy, but it's just there. So bad when he got arrested.
Now you got to also play with the Angels, who had a lot to do with AC/DC over the years, especially in the early years. You played with them, I think, at the Horden here in Sydney in '91. And I heard a rumor that Doc Neeson, the lead singer of the Angels, had to come on during your set to calm the crowd down because they'd fired them up so much. Do you remember that?
If he said it, who's going to argue with him? Could be, because I helped them out when they got their equipment stolen.
Oh, really? Tell us about that.
Here they are. They're in Chicago. We'd already played with them someplace, a number of places. And we played with them in France, and all kinds of stuff. And I got a phone call. It says, hey, it's the guys from the Angels. They were Angel City in the U.S., but it's like, I knew it was the Angels because I knew them from before.
Yeah.
And they were in Chicago, and they left their truck somewhere. I said, are you crazy? You don't leave your truck in Chicago, of all places, full of equipment. So they got it stolen. And so I collect guitars and stuff. And plus I like those guys, so I drove into Chicago, brought all my gear for them so they could even do the show.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I love how naive they were, just leaving a truck full of thousands of bucks worth of gear on an American street.
Yeah, in Chicago, of all places.
Of all places.
You get your car stolen, even if your car's not there.
Hey, Rick, it's so good to speak to you. And look, we're so happy to have you coming back to Australia under the Southern Stars with Cheap Trick. And it's going to be just amazing, especially a brilliant lineup as well with you and Bush and Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, Angry Anderson, how about him?
Yeah, and Angry's also on the tour, so it's going to be just nuts. And it's so good to have live music back. And Rick will be giving you a big hug. Congratulations, and thanks so much for coming along.
Yeah, come over to the hotel and I can wave at you.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Okay, cool.
It's like speaking to rock royalty. There we go, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. What about that story about the Angels as well? We've got so much more to come on the rider as we celebrate Under the Southern Stars. Monday, we speak to the drummer of Stone Temple Pilots, Eric Kretz. Tell you what, he's got some stories about all those years touring, also the tough years of Stone Temple Pilots, and how they've continued with a brand new lead singer. And the following week, Robin Zander, the lead singer of Cheap Trick as well. So much to come as we celebrate Under the Southern Stars. Get your tickets now. It all starts March 11. This is The Rider with Becko. Catch you then.